There's something you need to understand about human nature. Something that will fundamentally shift how you see yourself and how others see you. Right now, you're probably giving too much of yourself away. You're answering every text immediately, showing up to every gathering, being available whenever someone calls your name. You think this makes you valuable? But the truth is more unsettling than you're ready to face. You've become predictable, and predictable people lose their power. Carl Jung understood this centuries before social media turned availability into an addiction. He knew that the human psyche is wired to pursue what withdraws from it, to value what seems just out of reach. This isn't manipulation, this is the fundamental architecture of desire itself. Think about the last person who captivated you completely. I guarantee they weren't the one texting you good morning every day, or liking every single one of your posts. They were the one who appeared in your life, like lightning, brilliant, electric, and then gone before you could fully grasp what happened. They were the one whose silence spoke louder than anyone else's words. This is the psychology of mystery, and it's been shaping human behavior since we first developed the capacity for longing. Jung called it the principle of psychological distance, an idea that space, both physical and emotional, creates a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. When you're always available, always present, always having, you eliminate that sacred space where desire lives. But here's what most people don't realize. Mystery isn't about playing games or being deliberately cruel. It's about understanding that your energy is finite and precious, and that true connection can only happen when there's room for the other person to wonder, to reach, to invest themselves in discovering who you really are. You see, every time you immediately respond to that text, every time you drop everything to help someone who barely acknowledges your existence, every time you make yourself smaller so others can feel bigger, you're training people to take you for granted. You're teaching them that your time, your attention, your very presence has no value because it's always freely given. The needed truth is this: scarcity creates value, and value creates respect. Jung observed that the psyche naturally gravitates toward what it cannot possess completely. This isn't cruelty, it's human nature operating at its most fundamental level. We are meaning-making creatures, and mystery gives us something to decode, something to pursue, something to earn. When you remove all mystery from your interactions, you remove the very mechanism through which deep attraction operates. Consider the people who have had lasting impact on your life. Were they the ones who shared every thought, every feeling, every mundane detail of their daily existence? Or were they the ones who revealed themselves slowly, like a book whose pages you had to earn the right to turn? The ones whose depths you sensed but never fully plumbed. This is why distance makes you irresistible. Not the distance of cruelty or indifference, but the distance of someone who has inner sovereignty. Someone who understands that their presence is a gift to be earned, not a right to be assumed. When you stop being constantly available, something profound happens. People begin to notice your absence in ways they never noticed your presence. The space you once filled becomes suddenly visible, suddenly valuable. Your silence becomes more powerful than your words ever were. But this transformation requires you to confront an uncomfortable truth about yourself. You've been using availability as a strategy to feel needed, to feel important, to convince yourself that you matter. You've been afraid that if you're not always there, always guiding, always accommodating, people will forget about you entirely. This fear is the very thing that's been making you forgettable. Jung understood that authentic power comes from the ability to withdraw, to say no, to create boundaries that others must respect. When you master the art of selective availability, you stop being a resource that people consume mindlessly and start being a person they have to consciously choose to engage with. The psychology of mystery operates on multiple levels. On the surface, it's about creating space for others to pursue you. But deeper than that, it's about reclaiming your own psychological territory, establishing yourself as someone whose time and energy have inherent value. Think about the most magnetic people you know. They don't chase. They don't over-explain. They don't desperately try to fill every silence with words or every empty moment with their presence. They understand that true connection happens in the spaces between words, in the pauses between meetings, in the anticipation that builds when someone knows they can't have you whenever they want you. This isn't about becoming cold or distant or playing elaborate psychological games. This is about understanding that mystery is simply the natural state of a person who has inner depth. who has interests and pursuits and a rich internal life that doesn't revolve around being available to others at all times. When you cultivate mystery, you're not hiding who you are, revealing who you are slowly, deliberately, to people who have proven they deserve to know. You're creating a process of discovery rather than dumping everything about yourself onto others before they've developed the capacity to value it. The essential insight Jung offers us is this: the psyche values what it has to work for. When you make yourself too easy to understand, too easy to reach, too easy to possess, you trigger the part of human nature that takes easy things for granted. But when you become selectively available, when you create natural mystery around your time, your attention, your emotional investment, you tap into the deeper currents of human psychology that create lasting attraction and genuine respect. Are you ready to understand how this transformation actually happens? Because in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to implement the psychology of mystery without losing your authenticity, and why the people who truly matter will be drawn to you in ways they never were when you were constantly available. Now that you understand the foundational psychology, let's explore how mystery actually transforms your relationships, and why this shift feels so uncomfortable at first. The truth is, when you begin to withdraw your constant availability, you're going to face resistance both from others and from the part of yourself that has been conditioned to equate love with self-sacrifice. Jung called this the shadow work of relationship dynamics, the part of you that compulsively gives, that immediately responds, that makes yourself small. For others, this isn't actually generosity. It's a sophisticated form of control. You've been trying to manage how others see you by being indispensable, and mystery threatens that entire system. When you first start creating distance, people will notice. They'll test you. They'll try to pull you back into your old patterns of constant availability. This is where most people fail. They interpret this resistance as rejection and immediately revert to their old behaviors. But this resistance is actually proof that your new boundaries are working. The person who gets frustrated when you don't respond immediately isn't angry because they miss you. They're angry because they're realizing they can no longer take your attention for granted. The friend who suddenly starts reaching out more when you become less available isn't having a sudden appreciation for your friendship. They're responding to the scarcity you've created. This is the psychology of mystery in action. You're not playing games. You're simply refusing to play the game where your value is determined by your availability. But here's what happens next. And this is where the real transformation occurs. As you maintain your new boundaries, as you honor your own time and energy, as you become selective about when and how you engage, people begin to see you differently. They start to wonder about your life, your thoughts, your experiences. They become curious about what you're doing when you're not responding to them. Mystery creates psychological space for others to project their own desires and fascinations onto you. When someone can't immediately access you, their mind begins to fill in the blanks, and it almost always fills them in with something more interesting than the reality of your constant availability ever was. Jung observed that the human psyche is naturally drawn to depth, to layers, to the sense that there's always more to discover about a person. When you're always available, always sharing, always present, you eliminate the very sense of depth that makes someone compelling. Think about your favorite book or movie. What makes it powerful isn't that everything is explained immediately, it's the way meaning unfolds slowly. The way you have to engage your own imagination and interpretation to fully appreciate it. Mystery operates the same way in human relationships. When you become selectively available, you're not withholding yourself out of cruelty or creating space for genuine connection to develop at its natural pace. You're allowing others to invest in getting to know you, rather than having everything about you freely available with no effort on their part. This shift requires a fundamental change in how you understand your own worth. You have to stop measuring your value by how much you give and start measuring it by the quality of what you offer. You have to stop equating love with availability and start understanding that true connection happens between two people who are both complete in themselves. The needed energy shift is this: from trying to be needed to being genuinely valuable. From being accessible to being worth accessing. From giving yourself away to sharing yourself selectively with people who appreciate what they're receiving. Here's what you'll notice as this transformation takes hold. The people who are only interested in you as a resource, as someone they could use for emotional support or practical help without reciprocating, will gradually fade from your life. This might feel like loss at first, but these weren't real connections anyway. They were transactions disguised as relationships. Meanwhile, the people who are genuinely interested in you as a person will be intrigued by your new boundaries. They'll respect the fact that your time and attention have value. They'll be drawn to the depth they sense in you, the richness of a life that doesn't revolve around constant availability to others. Jung understood that authentic relationships can only exist between people who have developed their own psychological sovereignty. When you're constantly available, you're not actually connecting with others who are trying to merge with them, to lose yourself in their needs and demands. Mystery maintains the healthy separation that allows for real intimacy to develop. The psychology of distance works because it reflects a fundamental truth about human nature. We value what we have to earn. This doesn't mean making yourself impossible to reach or being deliberately difficult. It means understanding that your presence is a privilege, not a right, and conducting yourself accordingly. When someone knows they can have your attention anytime they want it, they stop appreciating when they have it. When someone knows that your time is valuable and your energy is finite, they become more conscious of how they engage with both. This is why mystery makes you irresistible, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely hard to get. You've developed a life rich enough, interests deep enough, self-respect strong enough that you don't need constant validation or connection with others to feel complete. The people who will be drawn to this version of you are the ones worth being drawn to. They're the ones who understand that meaningful connection requires mutual investment, mutual respect, and mutual appreciation for the fact that both people have full lives outside of the relationship. Your transformation into someone mysterious isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming the most authentic version of yourself. The version that understands your own worth and isn't afraid to let others discover it gradually, deliberately, with the respect and attention it deserves. So stop being constantly available. Stop giving your energy away to people who wouldn't think to conserve it. Stop making yourself smaller so others can feel bigger. Create mystery, not through manipulation, but through genuine self-respect and the understanding that your time, attention, and presence are valuable gifts that should be shared selectively with people who appreciate what they're receiving. The transformation will be profound, but more importantly, Ite will be real. And in a world full of people desperately trying to be noticed by being constantly available, someone who understands the power of strategic absence becomes absolutely magnetic. This is the psychology of mystery, and it's been waiting for you to claim it. Subscribe if this resonated with your needed truth, like if you're ready to stop being taken for granted, and comment below with one way you're going to create healthy distance in your life this week.